You know, medical records, they're just dense, right? Super technical and they can feel totally impersonal. But what if I told you that hidden inside all that jargon, that jungle of data, there's a real human story just waiting to be found? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to decode one of these documents to find the person behind the patient file. You ready? Let's dive in. Okay, so at first glance, it's just a total overload. You get hit with terms like this, and then this, and this. It's like a wall of text that's basically designed to be confusing, right? But if we slow down, if we look a little closer and start piecing it all together, a story actually starts to take shape. So that leads us to the big question for this whole explainer. What story is really hidden inside all this data?
All right, so to find that story, you've got to meet the main character first. Let's start with the absolute basics and just paint a portrait of the person we're about to meet in these pages.
Okay, so the file belongs to a man named Michael Todd Merriman. He's 34, and his location? The California Medical Facility, which is a state prison. That CDCR number you see there, that's his state corrections ID. So right off the bat, this one slide gives us our subject and our setting. Now, this is where things start to get really complex. This slide maps out just how much he's dealing with. And it's not one single issue, not by a long shot. I mean, look at this list of active diagnoses. It covers every category. You've got severe mental health challenges, schizophrenia, major depression. Then, substance use disorders for both opioids and meth. And on top of all that, you have physical medical conditions like celiac disease. The key takeaway here? We're looking at a person who is literally battling overlapping crises on multiple fronts all at the same time. So that list of diagnoses, that's the what of the story. But to really get it, we need the how and the why. And that's where the narrative parts of the record come in, and they reveal a really long, really painful history. And here, we actually get to hear from Michael in his own words, even though they're filtered through these clinical notes. He describes his acts of self-harm with this really haunting metaphor. He says, he's been testing the water and dipping my toe in. Wow. It just gives you this incredible glimpse into a mind that's grappling with wanting to die, but also being terrified of the pain.
And this timeline makes it crystal clear this isn't just a one-time thing. The data lays out a pattern of escalating crisis that stretches back almost a decade. I mean, it goes from playing Russian roulette back in 2014, all the way to multiple instances of cutting, including 2 just this past February, where the record says he had a clear intent to die. The data itself is telling a story of just increasing desperation.
The record also helps us understand his substance use disorder a bit better. It's not just a label on a chart. For him, it was a coping mechanism. He actually says it himself. He used substances as a way to cope with negative feelings.
And his journey is anything but a straight line. This detail right here is so important. He was sober for 8 years. Think about that. That's a monumental achievement. But then he relapsed. This shows us this isn't a story of constant failure. It's a story of a really difficult, ongoing battle. And then there's this. This is a direct, absolutely chilling link between his schizophrenia diagnosis and his suicidal thoughts. He tells the psychologist, the voices are trying to get me to do things I don't want to do, like bleed. Just that one sentence. It connects the clinical term on a page to his terrifying day-to-day reality. So when you're faced with a crisis this deep and this complex, how does the system respond? Well, the record shows they put together a really intensive and, very complex treatment plan. If you look at the pharmacy records, you can see this really carefully constructed cocktail of medications. There's stuff for his opioid use, like buprenorphine. There's a powerful antipsychotic, clozapine, which is often a last resort when other things don't work, multiple antidepressants, and then a whole bunch of other supportive meds for side effects, even vitamin deficiencies. You can see how each one is a different piece of this treatment puzzle.
But it's definitely not just about medication. The record shows his schedule is packed with different therapies. I mean, he's in everything from the standard stuff like CBT and stress management to things like alternative wellness with art and music. There's even cinema therapy and a group that plays Wii. It's clear they're taking a holistic approach, trying to build skills from every possible angle.
So that's the plan on paper. But what does life actually look like for Michael, day in and day out? Well, the daily logs from nurses and observers, they give us some really raw, unfiltered glimpses into that reality.
Okay, this slide right here is incredibly telling. On one side, you've got this neat clinical goal, reduce suicidal ideation to a 2 or below. Simple enough. But then, on the other side, you have a note from the daily log.
He was putting feces in the trash because he had this paranoid delusion that staff were trying to get a chip out of him. I mean, wow. That just shows you the massive gap between the clean treatment plan and the messy, chaotic, moment-to-moment reality of severe mental illness.
And even something as simple as a data point, like his weight, can tell a story of instability. Just look at this chart. In a little over a month, he loses almost 9 kilograms. That's nearly 20 pounds. That's a huge physical sign of the internal turmoil that's being described everywhere else in these notes.
Now, it would be really easy to look at all of this and just see a story of crisis, right? But if we keep digging, the data actually shows us something else. It shows us the slow, difficult, and frankly, repetitive work of trying to get better.
So, buried in all these daily logs, amongst all the notes about crisis and struggle, this one little phrase starts to pop up. It's a goal from his treatment plan: verbalize awareness of own coping abilities' strengths. And it doesn't just show up once. You see it again and again. Day after day, shift after shift, a nurse or a therapist makes a note that the goal was met. He is actively talking about his strengths.
And seeing it one more time, this repetition is the point. Progress isn't some big, dramatic breakthrough moment. It's this. It's the daily grind of building a new skill, one conversation at a time. And it's all documented over and over and over again in the data.
So we've pieced together this whole story. A story of immense struggle, a really comprehensive treatment plan, daily setbacks, but also tiny steps of progress. And we did it all just from the data in this one record. But it leaves us with one last really big question to think about. For all the incredible detail this record captures about a life, what does it still miss about the person?